when it comes to your relationship with quiet and noise, is it possible you've got it all backwards? Hey, I'm Father Mark Mary with Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, and this is Ascension Presents. Is your life a noisy life with some times for quiet and prayer? Or is your life a quiet, prayerful life with some times for noise? My guess is most of us have the first one. My proposal is that's totally backwards. I live in whatever, New York City. It's a noisy place, and I don't have control of it. Or many of you maybe have families and kids and things like that. And yeah, there's a lot of noise. But what I'm talking about is like sort of the intentional noise, the noise that you have control over, specifically like what you're listening to, what you're watching. Like, are you always filling your time, filling your life, your activities with some sort of noise? And then sometimes you have times for prayer. Or, right, do you have these like a generally quiet life where you're generally not adding any unnecessary noise? You're having times of prayer, but also a little bit of space to continue the conversation. But you'll have an occasional time for your entertainment or your music. And because which one do you schedule, right? Do you schedule your noise and entertainment time, or do you just assume it's always going to be there? Or do you schedule like your prayer time? Or do you just assume like you generally have a prayerful, quiet life, so you don't need to schedule it, but you sprinkle in a little bit of like entertainment here or there, right? Here's why this is important, and this is from many sort of great saints and sort of teachers of prayer, that the language of God is silence, and we see this throughout salvation history, and we see this the Trinity is there's a real way in which God speaks most profoundly. Like the language of love, the language of God is silence. It's in silence that he speaks. But we struggle with that, right? And there's this priest, Father Donald Haggerty, who I think speaks of it well. He talks about how silence for us has become a foreign language. It's a language we didn't grow up, if you will, speaking. It's a language we're not comfortable with. It's a language we don't know how to interpret. It's a language we don't know how to navigate. And so it's a language we don't like. And so we don't enter into the silence. And we don't allow the Lord to speak to us and to speak to him in the silence, because it's this foreign language. And I think it makes sense, right? For any of you who have tried to learn a new language, try to learn a new language with maybe 5 minutes of practice a day, maybe 20 minutes of practice a day. See how well you actually pick up this other language. For any of you who have tried to learn a language, like you need to like immerse yourself in it as much as possible for as long as possible. But the beautiful thing is, like if you do that, you pick up the language and you have access to this level of communication, this experience of life and of culture and of peoples like that you didn't have before. But you got to work at it. You got to learn it, and you got to really immerse yourself in it. And so the same with silence. The same with silence is we really have to take it serious. We really have to work at it like learning a foreign language. Like there's no easy way except for practice and time. And same with like learning how to speak and to understand the Lord's language. The opposite is like noise. And noise is 100% the noise, the distraction, all that sort of stuff. It's like 100% the language of the world. It's the language of the world leading towards dissipation and distraction and discouragement and disappointment and ultimately despair. But we speak noise so well because we have so much practice with it. And so throughout our day, we're always like, give me the noise, give me the noise. But the more that happens, right, the harder it is for us to actually learn and become, if you will, fluent in the language of God, which in its purest form is this word spoken in silence. And so the proposal is this. The proposal, again, is an examination, and I think it really makes sense. It's like, which one do you schedule? You're going to be more conversant, more eloquent, more comfortable like with the language that you practice the most, that you actually immerse yourself in throughout your day. And so which language are you immersing yourself in throughout the day? Is it the language of God, or is it the language of the world? And I'd say the key indicator is this: which one do you schedule? And which one do you just assume? Like, which one is your ordinary language? Which one is your normal life? And which one is the one that you sprinkle in, have a little bit of taste of? And my proposal is this, like, that we ought to, as much as possible, lean towards living generally quiet lives, generally lives in which we don't add the noise. And of course, like, we can have our entertainment here or there. That's a little treat. That's a little exception. But ordinarily, like, the ordinary language that we want to be speaking throughout our day as much as possible is the language of God and the language of silence. And it is in this place that the Lord speaks the beautiful words of blessing and of truth and of love and of hope to our hearts. And so, my brothers and sisters, just encourage you to take this to heart, to do a little bit of an examination, and to really ask for the courage to put it into practice, so that we may have a renewal in a whole church which is fluent in silence, fluent in the language of love, in the language of God. Thanks for watching. Remember, we are pilgrims on this earth, somos peregrinos, little by little, poco a poco. Vamos a llegar. We're going to make it. God bless y'all. Is it possible you've got it all backwards? One more time. Yeah. All right. Sometimes you gotta leave in your failures so you have some credibility when you actually do the cool trick.